Hello, welcome to the V2 Football Podcast. I'm Chris Lappin and I'm delighted to be joined on the line by Tom Statham. How are you this morning, Tom?
I'm fine, thanks, Chris.
Tom has been at Man United's academy team since 1994. Could you quickly take us through your role at United?
I'm an academy coach at Manchester United, so I work with the schoolboys there. So in my time at Manchester United, I've worked with kids from sort of 7 years old all the way up to sort of 16, 17 years old. And for the last 10 years or so, I've been more involved with the younger players, so from sort of 7 to 11 years old, the foundation phase.
Yeah, so I read before you became a coach, you embarked on a professional football career with the likes of Middlesbrough and Doncaster. How were you spotted as a player?
Well, I went into professional football in a quite unconventional way. I played, when I was younger, I was at Notts County, and I didn't get taken on as an apprentice at that point, and I did my A-levels and went to Loughborough University to do a PE degree. And while I was at Loughborough, we played a lot of professional teams, so we played Derby County, West Brom, Lincoln City, a lot of these clubs, and we play their sort of reserve teams with some youth team players in as well, players coming back from injury and so on.
Yeah.
And I always did really well in those games, and so I thought, well, I think I could do this. So actually I wrote off to a number of clubs in the Midlands area around Loughborough, and then while I was still at Loughborough, I went on, I was on trial and played several games for their reserve teams, and from that I got a few offers to turn professional, and I took the Middlesbrough one.
Yeah. Okay. And so how are kids spotted these days? Did they have trial days or?
All academies have a network of scouts, and there's a lot of scouting goes on for sort of 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old kids.
Wow.
Because the academies can sign boys when they're 8 years old.
Yeah.
And then they go into their academy as under 9s for that following season. So there's a lot of scouting goes on, and teams will have what are usually called development centres. And boys will be invited into these development centres, and then it gives the clubs a chance to look at the boy, and the boy a chance to look at the clubs before they make decisions towards the end of the season when they're 8 years old, whether they'll be signed for the academy as an under 9.
So what would you be looking for in a 9-year-old? What skills would you be looking at?
Again, it's probably, I wouldn't be able to talk specifically about Manchester United because, but I'd say generally one of the things that I find disappointing really about the academy system is that because of the age grouping, because the September birthdays comes in, when academies are looking for boys, they'll often get attracted to the boys that are physically quite dominant.
Yeah.
So you tend to find that academies have a lot of boys that are born in September, October, November. Because at the point when people are looking at them, they're physically and mentally more developed than a lot of the other kids, so they have a great advantage. So unfortunately, you tend to get in the academy system a lot of boys that are born at that time of year, and the other end of the scale, a lot fewer boys who are born in the summertime. So you get a greater proportion of boys in academies. There've been quite a lot of studies done on this. That there are a much larger proportion of boys in the academy system that are born before Christmas, and there are proportionally much fewer born in June, July, and August, which I think is a big problem because August you're casting aside, 30-40% of the population.
Yeah, because I've noticed when I've gone to see children's matches, they just throw the big boy up front and let him run with it, especially that age group. So.
Yeah, and I think with most kids' football, if you want to actually win football matches, then you have a big kid at the back and you have a fast kid up front.
Yeah.
And ideally a good, a big goalkeeper. And between the three of them, they can win the game because they can stop goals going in one end and boot it forward for the fast lad to score at the other end. And I think that's something that has been in English football for a long, long time now. When you compare the attitude that we have in kids football, grassroots football, and into academy football sometimes, is that if the result becomes the most important factor, then this is what will happen. You'll tend to get, everyone's seen it, you'll tend to get the dominant players playing in these positions and a very direct form of football. Whereas if you go on to the continent, countries such as Holland, Portugal, Spain, that have a much more development set of ideals, then the winning is important. They understand that at a young age, winning games of football is not important. It's actually the development of the technique and the opportunity for the boys to express themselves and develop their skills. This is far more important. In England, you'll see it if you go watch kids football. Usually, people would rather win the game playing any style of football.
Yeah.
Whereas, in a lot of countries that do produce more technically gifted players, they'd rather lose and play great football than win playing bad football. And I think that's a big difference in the mental approach of people involved with kids football over here and people involved with kids football in different countries.
Is it down to how much it costs to become a coach? Because if you're a dad and you just want to manage your kid's team for a couple of years while you're not going to pay thousands of pounds to become a proper coach, right? Whereas
I don't think I know that it's difficult for dads to get onto some coaching courses and to complete them because it's a great time issue as well as the financial issue. But to me, it's much you don't necessarily need to be qualified in order to be able to think correctly. In order, you can not know much about football, but you can know a lot about kids, and I think that again is something that I'm really keen to get the message across, is that the football, when you're working with kids, is relatively easy. If you get a group of kids and you give them a football and a couple of goals, they'll play and they'll enjoy it and they'll play for hours. Yeah. And it's the pastoral care, it's looking after them and keeping them happy and encouraging them and having a little chat to them. It's that role that's far more important. You don't have to be a highly qualified football coach. You don't have to have a great knowledge of the game. In fact, if you go back in time 20, 30, 40 years, there was very little involvement by adults in kids football, and you'd get a lot of schools football and primary schools. That's generally when kids would start to play football, sort of 30, 40 years ago, would be at 10, 11, 12 years old in the primary schools and maybe start in the secondary school. And often the teams are run by female teachers, because there weren't many male teachers in primary schools, and so these sort of teachers didn't know a great deal about football, but they knew about kids, and they knew how to nurture kids, and they knew how to look after them and encourage them. And so you'd find, that in the 60s, 70s, school teams were largely run by people that weren't specialists in sports, or certainly weren't specialists in football, and the kids often organised it themselves.
Yeah.
And the kids would pick the team, but the teacher would go out and just make sure they're okay. If there was an accident or someone got hurt, they'd look after them. But they'd have very little direct involvement in the team and the running of the team. And that allowed the kids to make their own decisions. They picked their own teams, decide who played where, and the game was theirs to enjoy, and they owned that game. And so they not only developed as footballers, but they developed as people as well. Whereas now, because football, certainly in the last 10, 15 years, has become dominated by adults, by coaches, by people that see their 8, 9-year-old boys as mini professional players.
Yeah.
They see themselves as an Arsene Wenger or Jose Mourinho, or they think that they're these figures, and so they use the kids in their, to enhance their ego really, in their game of, right, I'm going to be a professional coach. Because actually that's not what the kids need. The kids just all they need is the opportunity to play. And so I really would, for me, it's not about getting qualified. It's about understanding kids and knowing what they want and treating them as kids, not treating them as little adults, treating them as kids. So if you've got a group of 10-year-olds and you're coaching them, you've got to treat them as 10-year-olds. So in the classroom, Monday to Friday, the teacher, if he's teaching them maths or English or whatever they're doing, geography or music, then they pitch the lesson for a 10-year-old, so a 10-year-old can understand it and access it and enjoy it. They don't start teaching calculus and trigonometry to a 10-year-old because it's not accessible to them. But you'll find, in the football scenario, you'll get people that are talking to 10-year-old kids like they are 18, like they are adults, trying to impose complicated training sessions, complicated tactical ideas, on kids that really just want to run around and play with their friends and learn to love the game.
Yeah, you recently wrote an article for our website called Choose Dribbling First, and the impression I got from that is that you think that current coaching methods are too structured for kids, and they should be just fun.
That's something that, again, I'm really passionate about, is the fact that we overstructure kids' football, and I spoke a little bit about it just then. Because adults get involved, they see the adult game, they watch Match of the Day or they watch Sky Sports, and so they look at the Premier League, and that's what football is to them. So, and Premier League football, Champions League football, international football is mostly about passing. If you watch the game, there's lots of passing, and it's a tactical game, and it's quite physical as well, because people with pace and strength, that's important as well.
Yeah.
So that the predominant features of adult football are passing and tactics.
Yeah.
Whereas in kids football, there are very few tactics, because most of the kids just want to get the ball and dribble. So you get the scenario where, I've had coaches say to me, well, I run a team of 7-year-olds and they all just crowd around the ball. What can I do? And my answer to them is, well, play 2v2, because they will do that. They will crowd, because that's what they want to do at that age. They want to dribble the ball. They haven't got the ability yet to look up and see the field like an adult would, like the coach would. So you get the scenario where you get very young kids that all they want to do is play. All they want to do is dribble and shoot and score. Yet you've got adults telling them, no, you can't cross the halfway line, or you're a defender, or you stay wide, or you do this and you do that. And as soon as you start imposing these limitations on kids, then you limit their learning, rather than just allowing them to be free to express themselves and again to learn to love the game. Because if you're practicing anything, whether it be a musical instrument, let's say you're playing the piano, and you're only allowed to use a quarter of the keys on the piano, you're not going to develop as well. No. Whereas if you just if you're given a bit of guidance, but at a young age you're allowed to play the piano and just play any sort of tunes. It'll probably sound terrible to start off with, and then with a bit of guidance you might get a little tune going, and you get a lot of satisfaction from that, and that'll encourage you to explore and create some things of your own and listen to music and reproduce it. And this is how kids learn.
Yeah.
But in football, we have this mentality where the coach is the font of all knowledge, and the coach wants to impose that knowledge on the young player, rather than creating an opportunity, creating an environment by maybe conditions on it, and that will allow the kid to learn. That will allow the players to develop and learn through experience rather than through being told.
Yeah, so if we move away from grassroots football to the academy, when a player joins the academy, say 10 years old, you quickly take us through the player's journey of up to, I don't want to say graduation, but I don't think that's the right word. Is it? Where they either get taken onto the first team or they get released.
When they're in year 11 at school, they'll take the GCSEs, and obviously for most children, they've got options to leave school at 16 and maybe get a job or get an apprenticeship or continue to do A levels at college or at school. Well, at an academy, if an academy wants them to be a scholar, then they can join the academy and almost become a full-time player. So most academies will run a program of education, so the kids will have a day and a half of education, and for the rest of the time they'll be like full-time players. And then they'll generally do that for a couple of years, and then at the age of 18 they'll either be released or they'll be offered a professional contract.
Yeah. Okay. Something that has been in the news this week is Dele Alli being called up to the England squad after just 3 starts in the Premier League. The debate seems to be: is it too easily to win an England cap these days? I just thought it. So.
I don't know if it's too easy. I think that what it shows is that at the moment, if you're a talented player in England, then there's not as much competition, I think, as the Football Association and England supporters would like. So possibly 10 years ago, a player like Dele Alli, who's a very good player, would be in the under-21s and he would have to wait his time. So that could be a good thing or a bad thing. So for him, it might be great for him now to experience being part of the full England squad, and it could really help his development. but also certainly it depends on his character. Really, certain characters would thrive on that, but other characters it might actually damage their development because they're rushed into that environment too quickly. And actually, a gradual, step-by-step progression from the under 21s into the national team would be a better process. But I don't know really that it says that it's easy to get an England cap. But I think what it shows is that for talented young players, there's more of an opportunity to get to the full England team a little bit quicker.
Yep. Okay. Have you ever been surprised by players' developments when he's moved into the first team? Have you, has he ever had a better career than you predicted at United?
I think like when I've been very lucky that I've been at Manchester United for a long time, so I've seen a lot of players that have come through that are now playing first team football at Manchester United or in other Premier League clubs or in the Championship or in lower leagues. And some kids that came through have been high flyers from the very beginning, that you thought at 10 years old, they were really destined for great things. And there are other players that are probably towards the middle of the group in a way, and they just kept continuing to improve very gradually, and all of a sudden, they've made a good professional footballer. So I think every journey is very different. That's another thing that I think needs to be understood by people that are involved with player development, is that it's not a straight line graph.
No.
Kids have ups and downs, so that's where a lot of patience is required. So if you have a boy that has been a very good player, and for some reason he's not performing so well at the moment, that's where again I feel that the knowledge of the boy is very important, because it might be that he's had a bereavement in his family. It may be that his parents' marriage is breaking up. It may be that he's got growth issues, because kids tend to go through a couple of growth spurts, when they're developing physically.
I remember that happening. Was it Steven Gerrard in his early career? He went through probably 2 seasons where they kept saying he's having a growth spurt. He was constantly injured for.
Yeah, and I can remember lots of boys, that I've been involved with, where usually somewhere around about 10, 11 years old is one growth spurt, and then another growth spurt tends to be around sort of 13, 14. Yeah. And they might lose all coordination, because if you imagine your bones and your muscles don't grow at the same rate. No. If you think about it, you'd think that they would to help you, but they don't. So if all of a sudden your bones have grown considerably and your muscles haven't caught up with them, then they're very stretched, and it puts a lot of pressure on your muscles. So then you will get some muscle injuries because your muscles are being put under strain. Likewise, if your body is developing and growing, your skeleton's growing, you'll lose coordination. So, for example, if you, Chris, were all of a sudden your legs were to grow 3 inches in the next week, you wouldn't be able to move as easily. No. It's like wearing stilts for a little bit. So you find that boys will lose coordination. So boys that have been very smooth and have had a great running style and great balance and agility, they might go through a phase for a few months where they're just completely uncoordinated. So you need to have the experience and the knowledge to recognise that, and to not put pressure on them, to reassure them that it's okay, that they're going through this physical development, and you stick with them, but also to possibly limit their involvement so they don't get injuries as well. So I think these things are factors that you're managing really well, rather than saying, well, he used to be good, he's no good anymore, we'll release him. Yeah. Which I imagine has happened a great deal within academies over the years.
So away from coaching at United Academy, you've won the Specialist Soccer Tours. Do you want to take us quickly through what the site offers and the festivals you organise?
Yeah, I organise a number of festivals throughout the year, usually at Easter and in August in the summer. Yeah. I'm lucky to have a really good relationship with a school near Leicester called Oakham School, which is a private school. It's got great boarding facilities. It's got great pitches. The pitches are pretty much academy standard pitches, really well looked after. And so it's a fantastic location to gather teams together. I mean, I do this with academy teams at the moment, but ultimately I'd like to possibly involve some grassroots teams as well and have a grassroots festival. Yeah. But at the moment I run festivals from well, the main one is the under 12 and under 14 festival that is about 8 days at the beginning of August, where we get academy teams. We had 20 academy teams this past year, and that included FC Dallas from America.
Oh wow!
They brought a group over, and a team from an academy from Norway, and then I have a couple of teams from Scotland, Aberdeen, and Dunfermline. For the last few years, they've brought their teams down. So this has been going for 10, 11 years now.
Oh, wow.
So this is really well established. So there are 20 teams, and we have some really good academies from England, like Leicester City, Watford, Millwall, both Sheffield clubs, United and Wednesday. Crew, Dario Gradi comes because Dario takes the under 14s.
I saw your YouTube video with Dario Gradi.
Yeah, so Dario comes each year. And what it is the reason I call it a festival is because, again, the emphasis is on player development and coach development. So you don't want that environment where it's me against you, and the result is all important. It's there at the start of the season, so that clubs can come along, stay at the school. So generally, the clubs stay for 2 or 3 nights, and they get to work with their kids on the pitch, try different things out, but also they get to spend a great deal of time with the boys off the pitch. So in the dining room, they can have a meal together, which is obviously really important as well. For bonding, they can spend time in the boarding house. They go swimming together and so on. But it's a fantastic experience for the boys. That if you've spent 3 or 4 days in this environment, by the end of it, the level of play, but also the knowledge they've got of each other, and say the bonding and the relationship between the coach and the kids is far greater after that period of time than it was when they arrived. So it really sets up the season for some of the lads and the coaches as well. And also, everyone loves playing teams from different parts of the country because if you're an academy, say Watford down south, they will play the same sort of teams from the southeast. The Sheffield clubs will play teams from the northeast and Yorkshire. So it's great to see Bristol Rovers come. So we have Bristol Rovers against Aberdeen. Well, that's never going to happen anywhere else. No. And FC Dallas, playing against Derby County. That was a fantastic game in August. FC Dallas drew 2-2 with Derby County, and it was such a high quality game. Yeah. Obviously, those teams would never meet normally, so it's a real cultural experience as well as a football experience. So that's the sort of the festival that I've done the longest. But from that, I've developed similar events for the foundation phase at under 9s, 10s, 11s, and also I've run for the last few years a training camp, which involves some matches, but also it gives time for coaching as well for under 15s and 16s for those boys from academies. And then what was really exciting this past August was the girls event that I ran. Yeah. So I got the girls from Arsenal, which are pretty much the best club, the best girls club in the country. So they brought under 11s, under 13s, under 15s, under 17s, and their development squad, which is pretty much their reserve team. Yeah. They brought lots of girls, and along with Millwall, Sunderland, and Essex FA, they all stayed at Oakham for 3 days, and they played games against each other. And then for one day, I arranged for the Arsenal ladies teams to play the boys from MK Dons and Leicester City. Oh wow! Yeah. So we had the Arsenal, their reserve team, so 18, 19-year-old girls from Arsenal. A few had actually played for the Arsenal first team in the Women's Super League, and they were playing under 15 boys from Leicester City and under 15 boys from MK Dons, and they were really close games. Yeah. And then obviously went down from there. We staggered the age group, so it started off with the under 9s and 10s boys from MK Dons and Leicester playing the Arsenal under 11 girls. Yeah. And then the under 13 girls played under 11s and 12 boys, and it worked out like that. So we had a whole day of those games, and it was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So we said we'd finish at 10. So do you want to plug your social media and your websites and before we go?
Yeah, my the website where you can find out information about myself and the festivals that I run is www.specialistsoccertours.co.uk. Yep. And then on Facebook, It's facebook.com/specialist soccer tours, and then my Twitter is TomS_soccer. So that's capital T for Tom, capital S, and then underscore capital S for soccer. And if people want to follow me on Twitter, then I'll give information again about the festivals that I run, but also I'll respond to people who've got questions about how to work with young players.
Oh, excellent. Well, thank you for joining us today. Love to have you on again in the future.
All right, thanks, Chris.
Thank you.